you seem like somebody who definitely walks the talk. And that's what this show is essentially about, like really walking the talk and doing, it's very much centered around some of the little challenges that we do in everyday life that kind of move us forward, and the obstacles and things we've overcome that help us grow. So to kick it off, what are some of the perhaps significant obstacles you faced on your own journey that have led you to where you are today? It's a big question, but yeah, how did it begin?
Sure. Well, I always say pain is the touch tone, is the touching point of where I'm willing to do something different. I'm willing to change something. So it usually takes pain for me to be ready to do what it takes to actually make a different result, make a different pattern. So for me, I was in a marriage where I was struggling, and I had been struggling for a while, and I I wanted to make it work, and it was the pain that caused me to continue to seek and improve. And that's actually how I got into coaching, because I was trying everything. I was trying support groups and therapy and acupuncture and yoga and meditation. And I was like, self-help books. I was looking for a solution, and I found a coach, and she really found the answers inside of me by asking good questions. And I thought she had some kind of like mystical power or something, but it turns out that all of us have what we would consider magic inside of us. And it's really, it is our birthright. Every single one of us has our own answers for the plan of who we're supposed to be here on earth. And so I started getting results right away by finding, instead of looking outside myself for answers in the self-help book or in a therapist's office. I was given the opportunity to be asked the questions to find the answer for me. And that's what I think a good coach is they ask the right questions. And sometimes our brain will tell us, I don't know, because it's trying to keep us safe. Our brain, is magnificent, and it knows it has a lot of jobs, a lot of different jobs. And one of the jobs in there is to keep us safe. And in order to do that, it believes we have to stay the same. And that is the exact opposite of what it means to learn and grow and become. So you have to know what you're up against. You're up against, the subconscious mind keeping you the same. And yet, if you want a different result in life, then you have to look at and retrain your brain to do that. And basically, that's what happened to me. And I couldn't believe the transformation. And it has been my goal, my commitment to share my passion about how to transform, how to change with other people, because I didn't know how to. I had been searching for how to change for so long, and I was not getting the results I was looking for. So I'm passionate about getting tools out there so that people really can believe they are capable of creating a life they love, even when it's hard, even when it doesn't look exactly the way they want. You actually can still choose to be happy and be present in the moment. And it's a form of acceptance and loving what is. So that's how I got into it.
I really appreciate the honesty, and I think we're all far more alike than we are different, all of us. And yeah, I can relate to this seeking external trying to find the solutions in the external, and just coming back to self constantly, and kind of having to find that trust that you're talking about within, and trust that, but yeah, like you say, it took the right kind of guidance, by the sound of it, to the right questions and the right guidance to be able to trust what we already know within. And it always sounds kind of sort of straightforward in hindsight, but it's actually really epic to get to that place where it's like you start trusting yourself and know that the answers are within. And then in your case, to go even further and then turn that back around and start trying to bring that out of others is really awesome.
Absolutely. And I was reading this book yesterday that was talking about, a lot of us think that we trust ourselves. A lot of us think that we like ourselves. But do we feel? Is a different question, because a lot of people can think that they like themselves, but the feeling of liking themselves isn't actually there, and it has to be created. And, a lot of us suffer from, not feeling good enough. And that's what I'm talking about. We can think that, I trust myself, or I love myself, I like myself, I accept myself. But what happens is, thinking is different than feeling. And there's a disconnect. So if we don't align those, our behavior and results will not take us to the place that we want to go. And so it's really being aware of what we're up against. Our thoughts create these feelings, and if they're not in alignment, that will dramatically affect your behavior and results. And so when you don't like your behavior, or you don't like your results, it's all we have to do is go back to, okay, is it a feeling or a thought? And we get to retrain and rewire, but we have to be aware first of what's causing the result. So if you're, for me, even today, I still, this is it's almost like a daily reprieve, because I wake up and my mind, it wants to protect me even today. So I wake up this morning and my brain is like, well, I want to keep you the same. So it wants to hold me back, and so I have to have the awareness of, there's a thought that's afraid of change, or I wake up with the thought that something's going to be hard, or something's going to be scary. And that's going to affect how my day goes, so it's about training the brain, where to go. Our brain needs directions, just like, if we're going to a new place, we need the GPS, right? We use our phones to tell us where to go. Thank heavens, because I can't imagine looking at a map while I'm driving, right? So, we have directions to get from point A to point B. Well, that's what we need to do with our feelings and our thoughts. And so it's about the awareness of what's coming up and where I want to be, and having the tool to go from point A to B. And really, if we don't direct our mind and we don't choose how we want to feel, then you go to the default. And the default is pessimism. The default is negative self-talk. The default is, I'm not really good enough, or I can't do it, or I won't do it, or it's too hard. I mean, it's endless what the negative self-talk. And I don't know if this is true for everybody, but you know, there's a part of my thinking that is never satisfied. And I need to be aware of when that part of my mind is moving the mark, because I can have a goal and then achieve it and still not be satisfied because that part of my mind moves the mark or puts it somewhere else. I said that that was going to make me happy, but then when I get there, no, and it switches on me. And so I can easily find myself irritable and discontent. And so even today, even after I've been practicing this for over a decade, it still is about the awareness of what's going on right now in this moment, and how can I redirect, reprogram, just like in the GPS, when you take the wrong turn, it says rerouting. Like that's the kind of awareness that we're looking for in our brain.
Absolutely. Yeah, you've mentioned choice a couple of times. Choice is massive, like continuously making the choice to go against things, or recalibrate, like you say. And the our brains are kind of like broken hard drives in a way, full of condition. You also mentioned, I was going to mention, behavior. It's like the behaviors might not match the kind of core of who you are. The behavior can be misaligned and mismatched. But I can relate to what you're saying about the dissatisfaction. I feel it too. Like I think when I get there with the project, then I'll be happy. I've really been trying to, it's said a lot, but the gratitude thing, and also take stock of things in context. It's often hard to see in context how far we've come from a certain place. And I imagine with yourself, like 10 years ago, if you look at that respective to now, like it's an awesome place to be, but it's hard to see that in context, and the dissatisfaction is still there. I'm trying also to be like cool with achievements and really take stock of that stuff. I think it's important. So yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah. So why don't we celebrate our achievements? Why do you think you don't do it?
Yeah, well, I'm particularly hard on myself. I've had to fight. I've had to fight perfectionism and be cool with, imperfection, and be less hard on myself. And sometimes the things we tell ourselves are pretty brutal. And it's like, I'm quite fine now, particularly creatively, in terms of taking criticism, because the stuff I tell myself like is sometimes far more, but I have to be careful of that. I'm like, why we're so harsh on ourselves sometimes.
Yeah, that perfectionism is brutal. It's exhausting.
Mm.
And I liked what you mentioned about gratitude, because anyone listening that can relate to being hard on themselves, that's one way of looking at something. But when we can see that there's another choice, that is empowering. And so gratitude, and they say that you can't be two things at once. So when you work on gratitude, you can't be in ungratitude. And so when we're in that irrational state of things aren't good enough, it's because we're not grateful enough. And so in my book, Happy, Joyous, and Free, Love Your Life No Matter What, that was kind of the whole point of writing that book, was to give people tools so that it didn't matter what was going on, that we can train our brain to love our life no matter what. And to me, that is that is what freedom is, because freedom's different than just being happy. Happy is one thing, you know. And a lot of these emotions, I feel like, because we can choose, they represent skills. It's a skill set to be happy. It's a skill set to know what joy feels like. It's a skill set to be free, you know. Just like forgiveness, you know, when we learn about it, when we understand it, when we practice it, we make progress and we get better. And just like Olympians, they are masters at their skill. It's astonishing how many hours, you know, an Olympian athlete will put in to master the skill. And so it really comes down to, okay, you know, if I want to be happier, if I want to be at peace, if I want to have more freedom, if I want to have a good marriage or a good relationship, what am I willing to practice to make progress? And how much do I want to put into that to get the benefit? I mean, you know, Olympians, they make it their whole life to master that skill. And they do, and you can clearly see that the practice makes progress. And even major, I mean, the difference between, you know, first and second place could be seconds, right? Seconds. And they've correlated that with just the more practice somebody has had, even if it's just a little bit more, it makes a difference. And that can also be even in our mind, like practicing and visualizing forgiving somebody, or I think it's just the repetition that changes the way our brain looks at something. And that's where we're at. Whatever's going on in your life right now, the results you're getting are from repetition. So if you want to change it, it's like we have to turn it a little bit to change it in the other direction. And it's not as much as you might think.
A little tweak. Yeah. I like the athlete's approach to this stuff, like have a real kind of athlete, like it's a muscle. All this stuff is a muscle. You mentioned forgiveness, which, yeah. So in your work with couples and kind of relationship conflict and things, how like I kind of think forgiveness is almost a gift you give yourself, as opposed to potentially thinking, oh, I need the other person. I mean, obviously you need things from the other person, like perhaps if they can demonstrate a change in, you know, that they're trying to change or something. But ultimately it's there's a lot of self-forgiveness required. Would you agree with that?
Well, I think you can't give what you don't have. So if you don't know what forgiving yourself is all about, you'll never be able to forgive somebody else. So absolutely, self-love, self-forgiveness, it all begins with going inside and clearing the channels inside that are holding me back so that I can be useful to other people. And, you know, real peace comes from not needing someone else to do anything. And I love relationships. I mean, one of my commitments to the world is to create more marriages and to save marriages. I would love to save a million marriages in the next decade. That's one of my goals. Because so many times we are pointing the finger at somebody else. And, you know, they always, I don't know who came up with this, but if you're pointing your finger at somebody, there's 3 fingers pointing back at you, right? So it's usually, you know, it's that mirror like we see something in somebody else that is disturbing or irritating or annoying. And so, you know, we point at them, but really it's a reflection of what we don't like about ourselves, what we wish we could have. I mean, it's a signal that there's something going on with me. And if you want a healthy, intimate relationship, there is no place for blame ever, ever. That means, you know, I can share my needs and desires and wants with somebody else, meaning, you know, I wish you would pick up your dirty socks and clear your plate from the table. And what if they never, ever, ever do it? I've stated my needs, my desires, my wants, and they don't do it. Well, we have absolutely no control over other people. So it's being able to share things and being open and honest with no expectation, because it's the expectation. You talked about perfectionism. I'm hard on myself. So guess what? I'm hard on other people. So when they don't do something, it's like, oh, you know, it brings up anger, you know, and it is a mirror for what's going on inside of me, because I'm mad at myself because I'm not perfect. And so these are, you know, I'm hard on myself because I want to be better. And so I'm hard on others because I want them to be better. And it really, if we could get to a place where I don't need anyone else to do anything for me or to me, and that I'm at peace within myself, that is the best place to be. And our relationships, I mean, I believe we're here to love one another. There's no question. But all of us fall into these traps of codependency and this you know, like I want to be in love, I want to get love, and really it's, you know, love is a byproduct of being okay with myself. It's not the reward, like finally, oh, I found this person that says they love me and want to marry me. That we think of as like I'm getting something, like I'm getting love. We don't get it out there. It's inside here. And I always like laugh. Even one of the chapters in my book is looking for love in the wrong place. You know, we're not, you know, we're looking outside instead of it's right here. It's been there the whole time. You were born with it. You were created with it. The love is inside. We just have to find it. We're so distracted. We are so distracted with all these things outside of us, you know, money, job, relationships, health, you know, it's constant, you know, in our phones and electronics. It's taking away from finding my answers inside.
How important is intuition to you?
Yeah, it's really important. It's just that most of us don't stop
It's hard
and
to
get
listen
quiet,
to.
you know, because it's hard to listen to intuition when, you know, the TV's on, you know, there's just, like I said, those distractions. And we all are rushing around. And so there's all this self-doubt. So sometimes, you know, you might have an intuitive thought, right? But then what happens, what I hear all the time is, oh, well, I wasn't, you know, we dismiss it, right? Because it's so subtle. We dismiss it, or we doubt it, or, you know, we consult with the wrong person and they're like, that's a stupid idea. Especially about our dreams, right? Like some of us, have been able to tap into these like big, audacious dreams and goals, and you tell the wrong person and they just squat it, and then we're like, oh, well, that was just, well, what was that? I mean, it's like people will dismiss it, or they're just not in touch with it because it can be so subtle. So, one of the most powerful things that we can all do is make time to get quiet, to be still, to listen, to hear our intuition, and get really good at recognizing it. Closing your eyes so you're not distracted with all the stuff that's going on, and take moments to just think about nothing. And that again is a skill. It takes practice. It doesn't just come because we're so used to moving. For years I was like, well, walking is a meditation, and because I was like, I can't sit still. There's just, and I got a lot of benefits from walking. So I considered that's like, my meditation. But I've gone from that to guided meditations to being able, I've practiced. At first it would just be like 2 minutes. I'm going to sit, close my eyes and be still, and then, now I can be still for a lot longer, but there's still that thing in the back of my head of like, there's laundry to be done. You need to call that person. You need to do, there's just like, it's endless. That mind is just going.
It's crazy how hard stillness can be, even for like half a minute a day. It's funny you mentioned walking. Like last night, I just think, before sleep, when we have this massive input of information, whether it be the phone or whatever, I don't know if it's the best before going to sleep. And anyway, last night, like you say, my mind, it was just racing with all sorts of stuff, and I was like, I'm literally going to stare at the ceiling. So, I mean, it's hammering down in snow, and literally at midnight, I just took a walk around the block, and it really sounds a bit ridiculous, but it really just helped because by the time I got back to the apartment, I was just like, okay, I'm tired now, and I can. But if I had stayed in that like monkey mind mode that I was in, I probably would have stared at the ceiling for 3 hours and not. But I literally just went, it's midnight, just just go outside through the snow and just walk around the block. And it was, but when I was out there, it was actually pretty cool because it's so quiet and peaceful, and there's like pretty snow everywhere. So sometimes again, it's just like calibrating and knocking this stuff around, like, the toolbox, to get us where we need to be. And I love that you've described intuition as subtle, because it really is. And that's the thing, it's so subtle, but it's so big because it's like our North Star. It's like a compass, and it is really, really subtle. And yeah, how can we listen to it with so much distraction? But when we do, I just believe it proves itself over and over. Sometimes not in the way that I think it's going to play out, but it always guides me somewhere when I listen to it. And as you said, if you have a goal or a dream, and then suddenly somebody slaps that away, what you've been working toward, if we're not careful, we can really build a house on that and like just undo the work. So it's a very delicate thing, all this.
Absolutely. And it's important to, surround ourselves around people that can encourage us and lift us up. And, it's been proven over and over that you're an average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And, going back to the pain that I was mentioning in the beginning, I was in a marriage that was hurting me. And it wasn't just all him. I mean, I got to see what my part in it was too, but I was desperate when I looked at the average of, obviously, I was married, so I was sharing a home with that person. And so that person was, was definitely an average of my 5. And I thought to myself, well, he's bringing my average down, right? And I needed help. We both needed help. We both needed people that were above our average, above where I was vibrating, to help me come up. And so I was like, well, how am I going to do that if I live with this person? How am I going to raise my vibration? And so I started, like, it doesn't even have to be someone you physically are talking to. Just like have this podcast to inform and lift and encourage people. Start doing that. Start listening to people you can respect and admire, that are giving you good ideas, that are creating, vision in your mind. And so that's what I started doing. I started listening to people that could bring my vibration up whenever I could. So, in the car, after I parked, and just walking from, where I parked my car into the place I was going. I had, so that I could have a higher vibration, that I was feeding my mind higher vibration, higher knowledge to raise it up, so that I could have the ability to have those, inspiration, to change something, to do something different, to shift. So it's really important, if you're feeling depressed or down, I mean, what are you watching on TV? I always, sometimes, we talk about, being on a diet to lose weight. Like, have you ever heard of a media diet? It's like our brain, what are we feeding our brain? And whatever you're feeding your brain is usually a result or a behavior that's coming out. And so that's another tool to use. Like, if I don't like the behaviors that are coming out, if I don't like the results I'm getting, what am I feeding my brain to get a different result, a better result, a higher frequency result? So I always think of that when, one of the first things I'll do with the client is like, let's look at the outward stimulus that is, pulling you down, and just doing like small, sustainable changes, because it doesn't have to be black and white, or, don't ever listen to news again, or something like that. I mean, I hate diets just for that reason. I don't believe in just cutting everything out. It's not sustainable. Usually we just go back to the way we were. So if we can find small little ways to, like, to pull into my daily way of living, that's going to be more sustainable.
Tangible, bite-sized pieces. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Do you have a challenge for the listeners? Something perhaps small in that way, but tangible, quite specific in a way, particularly if somebody's struggling. Do you have a challenge that they could try?
Well, my favorite thing is body language. And Mel Robbins has a high 5 challenge, where you actually give yourself a high 5 in the mirror. We all know in our mind, even if you don't speak English, right? Like, body language translates in any language. And everybody knows a high 5 is a happy thing. It's a celebrating thing. It's a, like, yes thing, it's like, you go, girl, it's vibrational, and it's unconscious, because we've been taught that from an early age, and it's kind of a lost art. I mean, when's the last time you've given somebody a high 5?
That's
but we did it. We used to do it, So it's one of those things that your mind already knows. And so I like just something really small, like when you get up to go to the bathroom in the morning, to give yourself a high five in the mirror and just be like, it's going to be a good day, high five. And it's just one way to just kind of connect. And so my challenge is, if you do that for 30 days and you don't feel different, man,
That's a good one.
it's like impossible for you not to feel different. I would even give it 7 days of just using body language to shape the way your mind is looking at the day. And we need it in the morning, but I always give people, bathroom homework. You can do in the bathroom, because we all go to the bathroom, and most bathrooms do have a mirror. And and to give ourselves a high five, because all of us are in need of encouragement. And if you're looking for it in the wrong place, it really starts from here. So this is a way for us to give ourselves encouragement, and to give a high five, and inspire take it upon ourselves to take the responsibility to say, you got this. It's going to be a great day. Use your agency and your power to choose with your body language. It's going to be a great day. Because if you just use an affirmation like, it's going to be a great day, and really your mind is like looking down, your shoulders are rolled forward, like your mind's like, that affirmation just goes out the door.
It goes back to what you were saying at the beginning about the feeling rather than the intellectualized thing, trying to get the feeling. And that challenge is awesome. I think it could be applicable to anything that's programmed in a way that gives that positivity. Like for someone, it might be a high fives. It could be something else. But if it injects that for a short moment physically, that's really cool. Like I'm just saying, each to their own, in terms of maybe you're not a high five person, you do something, a fist bump or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. It's just even smiling,
it's a muscle.
It's a body language. So they say neurons that fire together wire together. And so it's an affirmation, but it's also getting your body involved, because your brain is tied to your body language. And there's just so much research on this. So even practicing smiling at yourself in the mirror, even the awareness of when you're feeling bad, what do we do? But you can see it in people's body language. You can see people, their shoulders are rolled forward. They look down, they cross their arms, they close themselves off, they get small. Now, men are usually better at body language of like being more open and laid back and relaxed and getting big, where women are even taught at an early age to get small, like cross your legs, be little and cute, and they're taught to be small, but that tells your brain to be small. And so we need to open our shoulders and look up. How many of us are walking looking at our phone, where the body language is looking down? And even I've caught myself looking down. I don't even have my phone, but I'm looking at the ground instead of looking out and seeing what's around me and making eye contact with people and smiling. I think the pandemic made it worse, that we're not looking at people. We're not seeing people, and so body language is a quicker way to engage our mind with those thought patterns that we want to make adjustments to. And it's fascinating, the research that's behind what smiling does, the hormones, the chemicals that are released from our brain when we smile, whether we feel like it or not.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm fascinated by body language and behavior, and but all this is like a more integrative approach, that everything as a whole. Where can people find you?
Sure. Happyjoyousandfree.org is my website. I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook, of course, all the TikTok. And I love giving free content. I love giving, body language advice for sure. And how to create better relationships is one of my favorite things. But mostly I love inspiring and lifting people up. I also have my book on Amazon, Happy, Joyous, and Free, Love Your Life No Matter What. And that's a great place to start because it talks about a lot of the tools that we mentioned today.
Well, you have a genuine vibrancy about you, which is really cool, even through the computer screen here. So, no, I really appreciate it. There was lots of cool insights there. So yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And I really appreciate what you're doing by putting podcasts out. I got to listen to other entrepreneurs that are changing the way, I love the kind of storyline of I was doing this career and then I went into this career, and that takes a big mindset change. That takes different thoughts and feelings to create a different result. And those are so feel good stories because it's like based on you can do anything you put your mind to. And I believe that. And there's tools to help you get and create the life you really want.